Have you ever felt like you're constantly chasing an ideal version of yourself, yet never quite catching up? Maybe it's the echo of childhood comparisons, those times when you were measured against someone else's achievements, leaving you wondering if you'd ever be enough. In today's fast-paced world, this relentless pressure to compare seems almost inescapable, especially for those of us who grew up hearing phrases like, "Why can't you be more like them?" I remember it vividly. As a child, every report card was met with the same questions. What did you score? How did the neighbor's son do? My parents never asked how I felt about my progress, only how I measured up against others. Family gatherings turned into informal competitions, with conversations revolving around whose child was excelling and whose wasn't. Back then, it felt like my worth was tied to how I compared to the perfect kids next door, the ones my parents saw as the gold standard. These early experiences left a mark, shaping a habit of constantly comparing myself to others. Many of us carry this habit into adulthood, silently eroding our self-esteem. But here's the thing. Comparisons don't define us, and they don't have to control us. In this video, we'll explore how to break free from this cycle of comparison using actionable insights rooted in Stoic philosophy. Stay with us if you've ever felt inadequate or stuck in someone else's shadow. And as we begin, I'd love to hear, have you ever felt the sting of comparison, whether from others or yourself? Share your story in the comments below. This is your journey, and together, we'll uncover the peace and strength of embracing it. 1. Compare yourself to your past self. We often find ourselves caught in the shadows of others' achievements, questioning if we'll ever measure up. But what if the real question isn't about them at all? What if the only comparison that matters is with the person we were yesterday? Shifting your focus to your progress transforms comparison into a tool for growth rather than a source of frustration. Growing up, I was no stranger to comparisons. My childhood was marked by moments when my values seemed tied directly to someone else's success. The memories remain vivid, etched into my mind like the grooves of an old record. I still remember the evenings when my parents hosted gatherings at our small home. The sound of laughter and conversation filled the air, but for me, it felt like the soundtrack to my inadequacy. Guests would brag about their children's accomplishments. One cousin who excelled at languages, another who had just aced their exams. Then, inevitably, the attention would turn to me. I can still see the polite but expectant smiles. "And what about your son?" someone would ask. My parents' hesitant response felt heavier than words. Those moments didn't just sting, they burrowed deep, leaving me with an ache that whispered, "You're not enough." It wasn't just disappointment I felt, it was something sharper, more insidious. A hollow ache of inadequacy, a bitterness that settled in my chest. I felt like an actor forced into a role I hadn't chosen. The son who's never quite good enough. Even when the conversations ended, the feelings lingered. Late at night, lying in bed, I would replay those moments in my head, wondering why I couldn't be more like the others. This kind of comparison isn't just my story, it's universal. Perhaps you've experienced it too. Maybe you've scrolled through social media, watched a friend celebrate a promotion, or posted pictures of a new home, wondering why your life doesn't look the same. Or perhaps you've compared yourself to a colleague who seems to breeze through challenges while you struggle silently. The danger of comparison is that it shifts our focus outward, making us lose sight of what truly matters, our progress. Stoicism offers a profound solution to this trap. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not waste the rest of your life speculating about others. Instead, direct yourself to what nature has equipped you for." The wisdom here is simple but powerful. The only measure of success that truly matters is how we grow compared to who we were yesterday. The Stoics teach us to focus on what is within our control, our thoughts, actions, and personal growth. Comparing ourselves to others is like running a race with no finish line. It's exhausting and ultimately meaningless. Instead, the Stoics encourage us to look inward and ask, am I making progress? Growth doesn't have to be monumental. It can be as simple as learning something new, overcoming a fear, or showing kindness in a challenging moment. If I had understood this as a child, perhaps those gatherings wouldn't have felt so suffocating. I might have recognized that my journey was my own, separate from anyone else's. I could have seen the value in my efforts, even if they didn't fit the mold others expected of me. So, how do we break free from the grip of comparison? Start with reflection. Take a moment to look back at your life. Where were you a year ago, a month ago, or even last week? What challenges have you faced, and how have you grown because of them? Progress isn't always obvious, but it's there if you look closely. Celebrate those small victories, even the ones that seem insignificant. Did you handle a difficult conversation with more grace than before? Did you finally take the first step toward a long-term goal? These moments are proof of your resilience, evidence that you're moving forward. And when the temptation to compare yourself to others arises, pause and remind yourself of the bigger picture. Each of us walks a unique path, shaped by our experiences, values, and circumstances. Comparing yourself to someone else is like comparing a river to the sky. Both have their beauty, but they exist on entirely different planes. When you focus on your progress, you'll find a sense of peace that comparison can never offer. The pressure to meet others' expectations fades, replaced by the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you're doing your best. You're no longer trying to win someone else's race, you're charting your course, one step at a time. The next time you feel inadequate, stop and breathe. Think about how far you've come, the lessons you've learned, and the person you've become. Your journey is your own, and it's worth celebrating. Progress isn't about being perfect, it's about being persistent. As the Stoics remind us, the only competition that truly matters is with ourselves. So ask yourself, am I better today than I was yesterday? If the answer is yes, even in the smallest way, then you're on the right path. And that is enough. That is a success. That is victory. 2. Focus on self-improvement. The world constantly bombards us with benchmarks of success, higher salaries, bigger houses, or grander accomplishments. It's easy to feel overwhelmed or inadequate. But what if true success isn't measured against others, but by your personal growth? Focusing on self-improvement shifts the narrative, making progress about building a better version of yourself, not chasing someone else's journey. For many, the root of this struggle can be traced back to childhood, where the seeds of comparison are often sown. Children who grow up constantly being compared to others, the model child, the star student, often find it difficult to focus on genuine self-improvement. I remember hearing countless stories from friends and relatives of how their neighbor's kid was always achieving more, as if that child set the gold standard for everyone else's success. It creates an unspoken pressure to conform, to meet a standard that may not even align with your abilities or aspirations. I saw this play out in my own life. My parents' expectations were clear. Their son should excel, not just for himself, but to uphold the family's pride. I recall one particular report card day. I had worked hard that semester, pouring hours into my studies. But when I handed the results to my parents, their reaction wasn't the praise I hoped for. Instead, they asked, "How did your classmates do? Were your scores better than theirs?" At that moment, it didn't matter that I had improved. The comparison stole the joy of my accomplishment. I felt small, as though my best wasn't enough unless it overshadowed someone else's. This mindset followed me for years, making me hesitant to take risks or set ambitious goals. After all, what if I failed and gave others yet another reason to compare me unfavorably? This pattern is common. Many of us hesitate to pursue self-improvement because the fear of failure and the judgment that might follow holds us back. We become so preoccupied with avoiding failure that we forget growth often comes from setbacks. Stoicism offers a liberating perspective on this. The Stoics teach us to focus on what is within our control, our thoughts, our actions, and our choices. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. When we anchor ourselves in this mindset, the noise of external expectations fades. Self-improvement becomes an act of personal empowerment, not a race to meet someone else's standards. Imagine viewing failure not as a mark of inadequacy, but as an opportunity to learn. Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, wrote, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." The Stoics understood that growth isn't about perfection, it's about persistence, about showing up every day and doing the work to better ourselves, no matter how small the steps may seem. If we adopt this mindset, we begin to see self-improvement as a journey rather than a destination. Think of someone learning to play the guitar. At first, their fingers fumble, the chords sound wrong, and progress feels painfully slow. But with time and effort, the music starts to flow. They don't compare themselves to a virtuoso. They focus on playing better today than they did yesterday. That's the essence of self-improvement, finding joy in the process, not just the outcome. For those of us who have spent years trapped in the cycle of comparison, this shift may feel uncomfortable at first, but the rewards are profound. When you focus on your growth, you stop seeking validation from others. Your confidence becomes rooted in your efforts and the progress you've made, not in how others perceive you. The next time you find yourself hesitating because of fear or comparison, pause and ask, what small step can I take today to improve myself? Maybe it's reading a chapter of a book that broadens your perspective. Maybe it's learning a new skill, or simply choosing to be kinder to yourself. These small acts, repeated consistently, create momentum. Over time, they transform not only your abilities, but your mindset. And when setbacks come, as they inevitably will, remember that they are not the end of the journey, but a part of it. The Stoics teach us that obstacles are opportunities in disguise, moments to test and strengthen our resolve. Every failure carries a lesson, and every effort you make adds to your growth. Self-improvement isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming resilient. It's about recognizing that your worth isn't tied to anyone else's achievements, but to your own progress. When you focus on the things you can control, your mindset, your actions, your choices, you'll find that the fear of comparison fades. In its place, you'll discover a quiet confidence and a deep sense of fulfillment. So instead of asking, am I as good as they are? Start asking, am I better today than I was yesterday? When you embrace this question, you stop running someone else's race. You start living a life that is authentically and unapologetically your own. And in that, there is peace, strength, and purpose. 3. Draw inspiration from others. Every person you meet has a story to tell and lessons to offer. Yet, too often, we let admiration morph into envy, turning others' successes into a mirror for our insecurities. Imagine if instead, we approached others' achievements with curiosity, using their victories as inspiration for our paths. The shift is subtle but powerful, creating growth where comparison once sowed doubt. I had a friend who struggled deeply with this. She'd scroll through social media every evening, seeing perfectly curated posts from acquaintances. One friend had just bought a new luxury car. Another was celebrating a promotion at work. And then there were the influencers. Endless photos of beachside resorts and exquisite meals. She'd close the app with a sigh, feeling defeated. Why is everyone else so successful while I'm stuck here? She'd ask. Her focus wasn't on her growth. It was on measuring up to others. The more she compared, the less she appreciated her progress. She had a steady job she loved, supportive friends, and talents she had barely tapped into. But in her mind, these things didn't matter if they weren't as impressive as someone else's life. This is a common struggle. Many of us fail to see the positive qualities in others because comparison blinds us. Instead of viewing success as a roadmap, we treat it as a competition. This mindset, rooted in insecurity, keeps us from recognizing the lessons we can learn from others. Stoicism offers a different approach. The Stoics believed in observing others' virtues, not with envy, but with admiration and a desire to grow. Seneca wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you." The idea is simple. Surround yourself with those who inspire you, not to mimic them, but to draw strength and wisdom from their example. Imagine seeing someone excel in a skill you admire. A Stoic wouldn't dwell on feelings of inadequacy or envy. Instead, they'd ask, what can I learn from this person? How can I adopt some of their qualities to enhance my own life? This isn't about imitation. It's about transformation. It's about using the successes of others as fuel for your growth. Returning to my friend, we talked about how to shift her mindset. Instead of envying the person with the luxury car, she could focus on the discipline it took to achieve that goal. Instead of feeling small next to a promotion post, she could ask, what skills did they develop that I can learn? It wasn't an easy change, but over time, she began to see inspiration where she once saw competition. For many, This shift begins by identifying the specific qualities in others that resonate with their aspirations. Take someone you admire, a colleague who handles challenges with grace, a friend who radiates kindness, or even a public figure known for their resilience. Look beyond the surface and focus on their virtues. What habits, attitudes, or strategies have they adopted that you can apply to your own life? This reframing allows us to approach success with curiosity rather than insecurity. You're no longer trying to match someone else's achievements. You're using their journey to enhance your own. It's about adopting a learner's mindset, one that sees life as a series of opportunities to grow, not as a scoreboard to win. When envy does creep in, as it inevitably will, the Stoics remind us to return to gratitude. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Take full account of what excellences you possess, and in gratitude remember how you would hanker after them if you had them not." By focusing on our blessings and achievements, we can counterbalance the weight of comparison. Gratitude reminds us that our journey, while different from others, is equally valuable. For instance, think about a musician who aspires to play as beautifully as their idol. Instead of feeling disheartened by the gap in skill, they could appreciate their progress while studying the techniques of their inspiration. Each step forward, no matter how small, brings them closer to their goal. This is how inspiration works when approached through a Stoic lens. It's not about surpassing others, but about steadily improving ourselves. If you find yourself stuck in the cycle of comparison, start by reflecting on the people you admire. Write down what inspires you about them. Then, consider how you can incorporate those qualities into your own life. Maybe it's adopting their work ethic, their compassion, or their ability to stay calm under pressure. The goal isn't to become them, it's to become a better version of yourself through the lessons they offer. In this way, inspiration becomes a bridge, connecting where you are now to where you want to be. It replaces envy with empowerment, shifting your focus from what you lack to what you can achieve. And as you draw wisdom from others, remember to celebrate your progress. The path to self-growth is never linear, but when you stop comparing and start learning, each step becomes a victory. In the words of the Stoics, true strength lies in mastering yourself, not in surpassing others. Let others' successes light your way, not block your path. When you do, you'll find that the journey becomes not just easier, but infinitely more fulfilling. 4. Be grateful for what you have. Comparison often blinds us to the blessings right in front of us. When we constantly measure ourselves against others, gratitude becomes an afterthought. The achievements or possessions of others create a narrative of lack in our minds. They have it, so I should too. This cycle of wanting more, of always reaching for what someone else has, leaves little room for contentment. It fosters dissatisfaction, anxiety, and a relentless craving for things that may not even align with our true desires. Many of us have fallen into this trap. The endless scroll of social media often serves as a harsh reminder of what we don't have. A friend buys a bigger house, a colleague celebrates a promotion, and an acquaintance posts pictures of their dream vacation. Each post becomes a silent indictment, whispering that what we have isn't enough. And so, the feeling grows. If only I had what they do, I'd finally be happy. But happiness isn't born from comparison. It doesn't come from what others have. It stems from appreciating what's already ours. When we focus on what we lack, we amplify feelings of inadequacy. But when we shift our attention to what we possess, gratitude takes root, bringing with it a sense of peace and fulfillment. I've seen this in the lives of many people, including myself. Growing up, I was often compared to my peers, whether it was about grades, extracurricular achievements, or even the smallest signs of success. This pattern didn't just create pressure, it distorted my perspective. I stopped noticing the privileges I already had. A loving family, the chance to pursue education, and even simple joys like quiet evenings reading my favorite books. These blessings became invisible because I was too busy focusing on what others had achieved. This tendency to overlook our gifts isn't unique to any one of us. It's a human trait, exacerbated by a society that thrives on comparison. Yet this mindset is a choice, a habit that can be unlearned. And Stoicism offers a powerful framework for shifting that focus. The Stoics remind us that much of life is beyond our control. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind," not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. Gratitude aligns perfectly with this principle. It calls us to focus on what is within our grasp, our blessings, no matter how small. Instead of yearning for what we lack, we're invited to acknowledge the abundance already present in our lives. Imagine waking up each morning and pausing to reflect on 3 things you're grateful for. They don't have to be grand: a good night's sleep, a kind gesture from a loved one, or even the warmth of the sun on your face. This simple act shifts your mindset. Instead of starting your day with a sense of scarcity, you begin with appreciation. Over time, this habit transforms how you view the world and your place in it. For example, think about someone who has always dreamed of traveling, but can't afford to take long, luxurious trips. They could spend their days lamenting this limitation, or they could choose to explore their local area, discovering beauty in places they'd overlooked. Gratitude doesn't mean settling. It means seeing the value in what you already have while still striving for what matters to you. This shift in perspective is liberating. When you cultivate gratitude, the grip of comparison loosens. You no longer feel defined by what others have achieved or acquired. Instead, you feel empowered by the uniqueness of your journey. One of the most profound aspects of gratitude is its ability to bring clarity. By focusing on what you have, you start to see what truly matters. The pursuit of someone else's life fades into the background, replaced by a deep appreciation for your own. Gratitude turns the spotlight inward, illuminating the richness of your experiences, relationships, and growth. Returning to Stoicism, the philosophy doesn't ask us to abandon ambition. Instead, it asks us to temper it with wisdom and self-awareness. Seneca reminds us, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." Gratitude teaches us to balance our desires with contentment, allowing us to pursue meaningful goals without losing sight of the present. If you find yourself caught in the cycle of comparison, start small. Take a moment right now to think of one thing you're grateful for. Maybe it's the support of a close friend or the opportunities you've had to learn and grow. Write it down, reflect on why it matters to you. Then, make this a daily practice. Each evening, list 3 things you're grateful for that day. Over time, you'll notice a shift. The things you once envied will lose their power over you. Instead, your life will feel fuller, richer, and more meaningful. Gratitude doesn't erase challenges or struggles, but it changes how we face them. It gives us the strength to focus on what's good, even in the hardest times. It reminds us that we are not defined by what we lack, but by how we cherish what we have. So when you feel the pull of comparison, pause. Look around you. Notice the blessings that surround you. Gratitude is the antidote to envy, the key to contentment, and the foundation of a truly fulfilling life. It's not about having everything, it's about appreciating what you already have. And that, as the Stoics understood, is the true path to peace. 5. Cultivate self-respect. The comparison doesn't just drain our energy, it often leaves deep scars on our sense of self-worth. For many, the need to measure up to others becomes a lifelong habit, one that ties their value to external validation. This is a dangerous cycle. When your sense of worth is shaped by others' opinions or achievements, it's easy to feel like you'll never be enough. Self-respect, a quiet, unshakable confidence in your worth, is the antidote. But for those caught in the web of comparison, building self-respect can feel like an uphill battle. I once had a friend who struggled deeply with this. Growing up, he was always compared to his older brother. His brother excelled at everything: sports, academics, and social interactions. Family gatherings became a recurring stage for his parents' praise of their golden child. Meanwhile, my friend felt like a shadow, defined only in contrast to someone else's light. He told me once, no matter what I did, it was never enough. If I scored 80%, my parents would ask why I didn't get 90%, like my brother. It felt like my value wasn't in who I was, but in how well I could compete with him. That constant comparison eroded his confidence. He stopped trying, convinced that no matter what he achieved, it wouldn't measure up. This is the cruel irony of external validation. It demands more and more while giving less and less in return. The harder he tried to earn his parents' approval, the further away it felt. Over time, he realized that tying his self-worth to their recognition wasn't just exhausting, it was self-defeating. This story resonates because many of us have been there. Maybe it wasn't a sibling, but a classmate, a coworker, or even a stranger on social media. The comparisons might be different, but the feeling is the same. When your value is constantly measured against someone else, it's easy to lose sight of your intrinsic worth. You start to believe that your achievements, or lack thereof, define your value as a person. Stoicism offers a path out of this mindset. The Stoics teach that our worth isn't determined by external factors, but by our virtues, character, and actions. Epictetus wrote, "Who then is invincible? The one who cannot be upset by anything outside their reasoned choice." Self-respect, in this context, comes from within. It's built on living a life of integrity, staying true to your values, and making choices aligned with your principles. To cultivate self-respect, the Stoics encourage us to focus on what is within our control. You can't dictate how others perceive you or what they expect of you, but you can decide how you act, what you believe, and how you respond to challenges. This shift in perspective is liberating. Instead of chasing approval, you anchor your worth in your actions and decisions. For my friend, this realization was transformative. He stopped trying to outshine his brother and started focusing on what mattered to him. He discovered a passion for writing, something his brother had never pursued, and threw himself into it wholeheartedly. It wasn't about proving himself to anyone else. It was about expressing who he was. Over time, he found a sense of fulfillment that no external validation could match. His confidence grew, not because he was suddenly better than his brother, but because he finally understood his worth. If you've ever felt like your value is tied to others' opinions, think about this. What truly matters to you? What principles guide your actions? These questions can help you shift your focus inward, grounding your sense of self in something deeper than external recognition. For example, imagine someone who feels overshadowed by a successful colleague. Instead of resenting that person or trying to compete, they could focus on what they bring to the table, their unique skills, their contributions to the team, or their personal growth. Self-respect grows when you stop measuring yourself against others and start recognizing your strengths. Building self-respect isn't about arrogance or dismissing others' achievements. It's about honoring your journey, your values, and your potential. It's about understanding that your worth isn't conditional. It doesn't depend on outperforming others or meeting their expectations. It's rooted in who you are and the life you choose to live. Stoicism reminds us that self-respect is a daily practice. It's the small decisions we make, the principles we uphold, and the way we treat ourselves and others. It's saying no to things that compromise our values, even if they seem tempting at the moment. It's celebrating progress, not perfection. And it's finding peace in the knowledge that we're enough, just as we are. If you're struggling to cultivate self-respect, start small. Each day, identify one action that aligns with your values. Maybe it's standing up for yourself in a conversation, or taking a step toward a personal goal, no matter how small. Over time, these choices build a foundation of confidence and integrity that no external comparison can shake. When you stop seeking approval from others and start respecting yourself, everything changes. You find strength in your values, clarity in your choices, and peace in your journey. You no longer feel the need to compete with others because you understand that your worth isn't tied to them. It's yours alone. And in that realization, you discover true freedom. As we reach the end of this journey, let's take a moment to reflect on the lessons we've explored. Life's greatest challenge isn't in surpassing others, but in mastering ourselves. By comparing yourself to your past, focusing on self-improvement, drawing inspiration from others, practicing gratitude, and cultivating self-respect, you begin to reclaim control over your thoughts, emotions, and actions. These aren't just abstract ideas. They're tools to help you live more authentically and with a sense of inner peace. Stoic philosophy reminds us that the power lies within us. You can't control how others perceive you, nor can you control the circumstances of life. But you can control how you respond. This is where true strength comes from. The ability to focus on your growth, to value what you have, and to honor the unique path that only you can walk. Start small. Each day, choose one principle to practice. Reflect on your progress instead of others. Celebrate your victories, no matter how small. When envy arises, redirect it into inspiration. Pause to appreciate the blessings in your life, and most importantly, remind yourself that your worth is intrinsic, not defined by anyone else's success. Growth is not a destination, but a journey, one step at a time. By practicing these lessons daily, you'll cultivate resilience, wisdom, and clarity. Over time, you'll discover the freedom that comes from living in alignment with your values. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever struggled with comparison or found ways to overcome it? Share your stories in the comments below. Your journey might just inspire someone else to take their first step toward a more peaceful, fulfilling life.